Another Friday, another keyboard review, and this time I'm checking out a Mac first, newly released low-profile keyboard, the Melgeek O2. The Mac users are often left behind when it comes to the keyboard world, so for that reason, combined with being low profile, my goal is to find out if this should be your next pickup to go with that MacBook. Before we go any further though, just need to get this part out of the way. Melgeek did send this keyboard out for the purpose of this review, but that's not going to affect my opinions. Let's get into it. Starting from the top, let's check out the unboxing, and straight away it's an Apple-esque experience with that really minimal white packaging. The outer sleeve slides off to reveal that more niche code design on the rigid cardboard top cover. Inside, the board is wrapped in a plastic protective sleeve with a user manual that feels kind of rubberized. It's small but feels like a really nice touch. Like, completely unnecessary, but shows that Melgeek care about the end-to-end user experience here. For accessories, branded rubberized USB A to C cable, a keycap puller, Windows and alternate macOS keycaps, and a unique Lego brick looking wireless receiver. So yeah, this was one of the most refined unboxing experiences I've had for a keyboard in a while, and the whole package comes in at $129 over on Melgeek's website. At the time of posting, they're actually running a 20% off release code, so if you're interested, keep watching. So the O2 has a low profile sleek design with a case construction made up of an ABS plastic base with a transparent polycarbonate top cover and this aluminium top frame. The transparent top cover takes inspiration from Apple's use of transparency in design, and yeah, if you haven't noticed already, there's a lot of Apple driven design going on. In fact, just look how flawlessly the corners round to match that of those on the MacBook Pro. Stuff like this just gets infinite brownie points from me. The name O2 actually comes from the chemical formula for oxygen, essential but invisible, meant to represent how the board seamlessly blends into the Apple ecosystem, giving Mac users a native experience like breathing air. The board is lightweight yet sturdy, coming in at 650 grams. The combination but quality of the materials used here is top notch, like it does set itself apart from most of the competition here. The accents you see on the keycaps translate underneath in the rubber case fee. In its default position, the board has a 3.5 degree type and angle, which you can increase to 5 degrees by taking out these rubber feet, and the underside fits and snaps magnetically to the upper case fee. This again is one of those things that just gives me a sense of how much design effort went into making this keyboard, and yeah, it's nice and refreshing to see. They didn't just slap the usual type case feet onto the keyboard, they went the extra mile here. Otherwise under here, there's simple Melgeek branding that I really can't complain about, and I really can't get enough of that smooth sloped raised section. Alright, let's get into some of the specs, like the fact that the O2 has tri-mode connectivity, which means you can connect wired via this USB-C port on the back, or wireless via Bluetooth, or that 2.4 GHz receiver we saw on the accessory kit. Pretty standard, right? Right, but in Bluetooth mode you can connect this keyboard to up to 8 devices and swap between them using function plus the numbers 1 through 8. That's insane. You're getting a 2500 mAh battery for wireless use, and based on Melgeek's tests, it'll last up to 6 months on a full charge, based on 8 hours of daily use. I'd personally take that with a grain of salt because your mileage will vary, especially if you're using backlights and side lights and stuff like that. So the O2 features a 75% ANSI layout with a couple of unique flares like the slightly wider escape and delete keys, which once again ties back to Apple and their magic keyboard design. As a software developer and content creator, these shortcut keys are my absolute go-tos, and you also get an insert key in the F13 spot. I briefly mentioned RGB before, and yeah, you are getting RGB backlighting, but I have to say it's really on the dim side even after maxing out the brightness. Part of this will no doubt be from the north-facing LEDs. So if you want a super vibrant flashy keyboard, this isn't going to be the choice for you, but I think that's by design. It's a dimmer, soft pastel kind of RGB experience I personally found. On the other hand, there's a side pill-shaped LED on either side, and these get bright. You can cycle colours and choose between static or breathing modes, so these LEDs are purely form. If you want function, let's look at these ones. There are a series of indicator LEDs for caps lock, battery level and connection mode. Speaking of, to change connection modes, there's a switch back next to the USB-C port. Alright, let's move on to keycaps and their low profile dice sub PBT with a light contoured design for a more enjoyable typing experience, which I'll back, yeah. The main colour is off-white with a couple of bolder accents, and I do have to say I'm not really a fan of the font choice they went for here. I do however like the secondary functions they printed on the function row, again designed for seamless macOS functionality. Then moving on to the switches, the O2 ships with custom Kailh Sunlight switches. These are obviously a low profile switch with a transparent body and that rounded dustproof stem. For me, these switches were basically perfect. They provided a light, soft, quiet typing experience. To touch more on the overall sound of the keyboard, it's got a lower pitch, lower volume, soft, creamy sound. I found the stabilizers to be, again, pretty perfect, and the spacebar in particular. Wow, it's got a couple of strips of foam on the inside, and paired with thick PBT just kills any harsh sounds that you'd usually get from spacebars, and honestly it's actually addicting to press. That being said, I did hear a very slight bit of ping on the spacebar, but I'd say a quick stabilizer wire balance and lube would sort this right out. The board is gasket mounted, which in and of itself doesn't tend to provide the most bounce in low profile keyboards, but mixed with the switches here, the typing experience is exceptionally soft. Alright, enjoy the sound test. Alright, let's talk software support, and Melgeek provide their Hive customization browser tool. It's minimal and leagues ahead of 99% of other keyboard software drivers, but with a development background, it's a little amateur still. Nonetheless, it allows you to do all the typical customization stuff without needing to download a custom driver. Now, that brings me on to teardown, and I whipped out the Keycaps Switches and tried for a while to pry the case open, but I couldn't. So I reached back out to Melgeek and they let me know that in fact the board was not designed to be opened, and doing so might damage it. So let's not do that. But yeah, to be honest, I'm kind of happy enough with this because the O2 is designed to be the full package right outside of the box. So yeah, I don't think Melgeek intended on having people open it. Alright, so to start wrapping up, after putting the O2 through its paces, the first thing that was immediately obvious is that this keyboard went through thorough research and design, and the performance equally so. After spending enough time with this keyboard, I found it compelling enough to make it my new main choice for low profile keyboard. Now, as we found out, the O2 is heavily macOS focused, but I want to make it clear that it's perfectly compatible with Windows as well. Just swap out those keycaps, Function plus S shortcut, and you're good to go. I really appreciate all the attention to detail from Melgeek seen throughout exploring this board. At the $129 price tag of asking, I do actually think this keyboard is worth your money. It's got that premium feeling that I thought was slightly lacking from my previous go-to low profile keyboard, the low free flow light. North facing LEDs, a bit of a clunky font. Those might be some of the minor nitpicks that I point out. But as for major cons or drawbacks, I don't really have any. So yeah, that's going to be it for my review of the Melgeek O2. If you liked the video, consider dropping a like and subscribe if you're feeling extra generous. Another huge thanks to the people over at Melgeek for making this one possible.